So welcome to this week's exploration into consciousness with the Earthenwald group. Welcome everyone, and welcome those who haven't been here for some time. So good to see everyone. And today we're going to talk about sound. With with more and more people stepping into their authentic voices, claiming their authentic voices. It's almost like it looks like the collective throat chakra is opening. I've just before we came on, I've actually watched Robert Grant, the mathematician, talk about Egypt, the Giza pyramid, and they are thinking of looking into finding another chamber on top of the heart chamber, the throat chamber, So it's all very exciting, and it's all sound, and sound is obviously a portal back into our souls, back into divine communion, back to the universal energy. So what can we use sound for? How can we use it for healing? How can we use it for manifestation? Especially now, as we're going through those quite intense eclipse energies, where that energy, the eclipse season, where the energies are heightened, and where lots and lots of portals are opening up. So this is our, I think, choice today. We're going to open lots and lots and lots of different portals related to sound by asking various questions. And remember, it's not so much about the answers, it's really about the question. And even if you just find one word that fascinates you from our discussion, then take that word and do your own exploration. Yeah. So first question, we're just going to stick to what we've got here to begin with, at least, before we get, go all over the place. So the first question is, how does sound play a role in spiritual and physical healing and transformation? So spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, how does it play a role in healing and transformation, especially during the eclipse season? So who wants to kick it off? Who's done a little bit of work with sound? Who's looked into that?
Well, I wanted to start by saying that I've been reading this book, Voyagers, and she talks about how as angelic human beings, we've come into form. And that made me think of that phrase from the Bible, in the beginning, there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And so that really sort of inspired me today. And what Ashiana Dean talks about in the Voyager series is how we've incarnated from the three primal sound fields. Right. So, that tracks. In the beginning, there was the word, there was the sound, and then sound became manifest down through the dimensions. And so that's just what I was kind of thinking about today. I think that's a good starting place, because in the beginning, there was the word. And how do we manifest our lives? With words, with sound, with the resonant energy that comes from our vocal cords, with the aligned third eye and throat and heart and gut, right? We resonant, energetic, frequential beings that speak our truth into manifestation.
Sound as vibration, and vibration is more solidified form of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. And I was listening to my friend Rudolf Steiner, and one of the nuggets that I overheard the other day, he said, we are grounded into this reality through the heart, and the heart grounds the consciousness, whatever levels of consciousness. And now what's happening is we're starting to bring that heart consciousness up into the larynx, into the voice box, which the larynx, I looked it up, is basically that muscle, and that's a hollow muscle. And that voice, that sound, is being pushed up into the larynx, and then into the third eye, like Tanya was saying, and up into the crown, and then connecting up into the cosmos. And this is also now how we are leaving the into the dream world. And for some reason, I don't know, it doesn't fit right away, but the dream world will be something to be discussed with regards to sound as well. Yeah. Sandrine, you were saying you've started looking into sound as well.
Yes, I stumbled upon a documentary on sound, on sound as such, and I have been looking at a few of these trails that and following the breadcrumbs. And I was also fascinated by the fact that all the different pyramids have different sound frequencies, you know, and this is why they are differently shaped, because they all have a different sound. That many of the buildings have been built, also megalithic buildings that have sound. And then I stumbled upon an artist who is actually using the sound of the stone, you know, so he's using a mega, how do you call them, an altifon, and you know, there is a stone running over the stone, and through the copper wire you hear the sound of the stone. So and also these discs that they found in the indigenous North American regions, you know, the spirals that are actually, it's like on an LP, it's making a sound. So, and from that I came into it's this science of the cymatics. It's called cymatics. So you probably have seen already on a metal plate, you put some sand on there, and then you can play some sound, and then these sands, the sand and the dust, and they just create these different patterns. And this is all these different patterns that we have already recognizing all through the world. So the one above me here, the blue one, that is actually the sound of a human voice. And then the others are all the Rosettas in different churches, and then the Mayan calendar, and the DNA also has its different system. This brought me to a website on sound healing. And believe it or not, but just a couple of days later, I actually had a frozen back. So my back froze because I did a bad movement. And I was like, you know what? Let's see if this works. And I downloaded the playlist. So I bought it and I downloaded the playlist for the sounds for tendons. So what they are using is that all of the all of your whole body, all of the cells, all of the organs, all your different things are emitting a sound. So when your tendon or your muscle is in a good state or in a healthy state, it emits a certain sound. So if your muscle is in a bad state, then it emits a different sound. And if you're using the sound of the healthy muscle on the muscle that is like strained, the different patterns can refigurate again. So they come into a disarray when you hurt yourself, and then through that sound, then the cells are removing a pattern themselves again into the right pattern, into the healthy pattern. So it's a playlist of 16 different sounds that are running for like 2 minutes up to 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And you just place I use a little Bluetooth outside box, and you place it on where it hurts. So because it was on my back, I just placed myself in my bed. I put the little loudspeaker in the nook of my back, and then I just let it play. And I didn't move. And I can just tell you that after these 43 minutes, I got up later. My pain was gone. My pain was gone from a lumbago. And I tell you, usually it's 4 days. The pain was gone. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to be very careful, you know, with moving around. Yes, the tendon has still because I really blocked it quite heavily, but the pain was gone. So now I'm exactly using it now on my shoulder as well. And I noticed some improvement there as well. And also on my hip, you know, the thing that we talked already about. And there are things that are happening. The other day I also used, because I bought a whole package of these sounds, and there is one of them about, you know, the higher states. And I just I lay myself on the bed, and it was also 40 minutes, and I closed my eyes, And suddenly, and that one you listen to. And suddenly I felt like a whole emotional thing coming up, and I was not thinking about anything special. And I had a really, like, you know, when this coming up in your body and you get goosebumps, and suddenly you feel like my eyes were full of tears. And then I was like, a deep sigh going out of my body, and like, whoa, I have no idea what that was, but thank you, now it's gone. So this is where I was exploring. And the thing I want to touch upon as well, I'm going to put in the chat the different websites because it's very interesting. There's one pioneer, his name is Stuart Reid. He was one of these sound engineers who actually in this, I think it was in the late 60s, who was allowed into the king's chamber in the pyramid. And he put one of these membranes over the sarcophagus that is there. And they were putting sand on it, and they were using different sounds. And you know that in that chamber and on that membrane, actually the hieroglyphs appeared in the sand. So that he put out this thing that, you know, the hieroglyphs are coming because somebody at that moment was still able to see the dust moving or the particles that were used, you know, like here, the visual that is being used. People were still able, or beings were still able to see that, and that is why this is what they saw, and this is the hieroglyph that they used as in translation as a language. So I found that absolutely fascinating.
Well, isn't that the observer, right? The observer that changes through the observation, that creates, that manifests through pure observation. Yeah. And you know, when I look at your mandalas in the back, that sacred geometry, there's actually something that Robert said as well. You said geometry is the music that we can hear by seeing it. Now, hold on, I wrote it down. We experience with our eyes. That's better. Geometry is the music we experience with our eyes. That's so cool, isn't it, in a way? Because that's pretty much your mandalas in the back there. Mm-hmm. Cool. Now, Tanya, you've mentioned the three primary, what did you say? The three primary sound fields.
Yes. That yeah. So I'm just starting to learn. What really interests me is the way that our spirit comes into manifested form, and what this book Voyagers talks about is how there's three groups of beings that have incarnated through down from like above the 15th dimensional reality. Everything is not form, right? And so as we drop down in dimensional realities, we become more and more dense dimensionally, energetically. And so the first incarnation was the angels, and they came from the first primal sound field, which she calls the ecstatic sound field, which is spelled ECKATIC, ecstatic. And then there was a second incarnation that came through the secondary primal sound field that she calls the polaric. So, you know, ecstatic is the 1, polaric is the 2, and then the third primal sound field would be like the 3. So the angels came through the first, the dragons came through the second, and then like the whale beings came through the third, right? And then, so those beings up in that dimensional reality are holding, you know, space, and then deciding to, they call them the yanas, the washiyanas, and the grande yanas, and the something else yanas. But those are the beings that are sort of like holding space to help us incarnate down through the dimensional energies where we are now. And of course, there's been all kinds of strangeness and you know, corruption around that. But it's almost like if you think about the Trinity, right? Where the Trinity shows up in a number of different places, right? The maid and the mother, the crone, the father, the son, the spirit, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the divine child. But I would say that, you know, this is the Trinity of the sound fields that are working together. So I really don't know much more about it than that, but I find it to be quite fascinating.
And I suppose one thing, you know, when we talk about sound and form, we have to add the others as well, because, you know, the way I understand it from a universal, let's say there's void, there's nothing, there's this everything. And then it starts actually the first, apparently what Steiner is saying, reference to him again, he says the first thing is actually number, and this is where mathematics comes in, where we say music is maths, really. So it's math, it's numbers, the sacred numbers, and you know, when we do our birth charts and everything, so there is the sacredcy in the number. That's how it all starts. And then comes the sound, and then comes the color, and then comes the form. So when we talk about sound, you know, we can bring all these other, the numbers, the geometry here, the sound, the color, and the the whole light spectrum is made up of those components, you know, to lead us back. All of these are basically portals back into our to the soul connection. This is also when we talk about, you know, to make it a bit more practical today, you know, it's like also we have a keynote, an individualized, personalized keynote, a tone that speaks to our soul. And that doesn't have to be, we don't have to be musicians, we don't have to be singers or anything. That's that toning. We're just like, you know, if you think of I thought about this, I thought, okay, so what is when I go somewhere, what is my go-to tone? And let's just, you know, and then I get Karen, she's got her hands up. But if I look at the keynote for me, that's been coming up over and over again when I think about this, it's a very monotonous that's my keynote, interestingly enough. And whatever I do, even when I drum, it's like that deep void space keynote. That's immediately I go into that. Have you ever thought of that, of yours?
Just a quick, sorry, Karen, just a quick thing, because it just fit in nicely. This is what they say, vagus nerve responding to very low vibrations. And as we know, vagus nerve is a major point in rewiring and unwiring all our stuck moments. So no wonder it's that healing that you are bringing with that deep, lower tone. And another thing, just one thing, I'm just so fascinated by how everyone actually will just looking at public figures, but it is concerning everyone, how everyone deciphering this creation from their point of view. Mathematicians through numbers were first. Ashayana, she is going with her idea, her agenda, how she became connected to space, to universe. So it's so fascinating. So let's do everyone our story put out and be active in that, because we are so buying into someone's agenda, forgetting about us, who we are, our center, our connection, being center of this universe that around us. So this is kind of like my thing. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, no, thanks for reminding us on that one. And when we do mention you know, inspirations, we use all these, what we read, what we see, these are inspirations, and then we start applying them to ourselves. And that is something that we are passing on to everyone else, because it is a very authentic, it's a very individual journey. You're absolutely right. And now we're going to pass on to Karen.
Gracias, preciosos. Yes, in that sense, we know that voice, starting from our own voice. That is our tool that we use daily, that we may shift it differently to whomever we have in the front. If it's our partner, our friends, our children, our bosses, our neighbors, our own. How do you talk to yourself? And depending on what age, time, states of consciousness, moments. And there are a lot of practices that can come into your real truth of your grounding. Now I'm even through your beautiful offerings getting, and you know me, very fiery soul, going to my other type of more center flame and maybe anchor my voice, because may you have another voice, right? Where can it also be through your words that are spells for your own manifestation of reality, take you on a journey of your own healing transformation, daily, momentum. And there's so much recognition on many readings of where we're getting into the learning processes of ours through how we express it, how easily we can express our voice just because of how actually through just a normal speech time with somebody, you can even heal, you know, without singing, just by saying. That's why Alan Watts, right? Or other souls, like in their speeches, Alan Watts, was okay.
Yeah.
Or other souls through their speech or spoken word can take you somewhere, you know?
Hitler. He was very good with his voice.
Yes. And that is the attraction to all speakers of the war, for better or not so better, you know, not to say worse, blessings always. So in that sense, our own voice is just our tool. As you know, in my naked state of not manifestation of everything, but yes, I want all the instruments, healing, whatever, but just something like this, you know, that go along you, yourself, to the basic of the basic, as you were saying, stones, how little children start playing, and then you just go along with it. So it's no matter of understanding either what is the best HZ code of healing, is more what is your own. And yes, Sandrine, even if you hurt yourself, how do mommies used to lullaby us and say pupa pupa and sing us and invent and make up their own healing chants? And we will feel immediately healed. The moment it is the mama or the papa, whomever that has that chanting, like the best Icaro, talking about Icaro soon, mantra ever. And that's how it comes, just through simple love. So I think in the end, whatever we might find of the unknown and channeling and connection with our own selves, maybe we be on nature, maybe we just here surrendered by walls, let's say. If we connect to our truth, we can just send directly to whatever you need, starting with physical pain, emotional, that key, you know, for the openness on the healing. And of course, the more we practice and the more, let's say, in the sacredness of the numerology or any code, indeed, we may find that more beauty in the sense of what we create in the mandalas, you know, like, you know, Masuro Emoto, that used to do the healing of the waters by saying words or by singing, and you can change that. So the same for ourselves. So very briefly, when I started working on art, I started touching base through music a lot. So this is not the voice I had. There are people that if they call me, even though we text much now, they don't recognize me because my voice shifted. So I lost my voice for 15 days. I had to write, and probably I have to go deep and see what happened, you know, because I even shut myself, shut myself not to be able to sing. And, you know, I love singing, not even happy birthday, because I judged myself that I started to sing badly, you know, and I wouldn't participate in course, nothing. And since then I said, bueno, and that was probably my call. So now I had to do my own sound healing transformation in just believing that it is just what you transmit, that your voice is always unique and perfect, and you can transmit healing to yourself, to the whole environment, just by itself. And this is it. And children taught me a lot too, because I used to teach languages and they are always singing and dancing, and I just don't care how they sing. So I invite us, like, more than finding maybe the right mantras or the right, just sing, whistle. Have you noticed how many cultures are whistling the whole time? If you live near Moroccans, if you live near Arabs, they are whistling all the single time on their own when they're working, when they're just passing by. I come from Peru, but it's not only Andes, it's the Amazons, it's the Black heritage, let's say. I don't know if it's approved to say here, but in Peru we can say it, and we say it with love, you know, among each other, and we bring it, and we bring the drums and the cajon. So it's a mix of the mix, and that's pure love, you know, and how our feet were touching, you know, the Mother Earth. And that was the sound coming in, and the dust, seeing it and making it your own. Sister Martina was inviting to express a little bit about the Icaros. And Icaros are traditional shamanic prayers, let's say, that starting from the eyebrow, that we call it, from the meeting of the Andes and the Amazons, we start having every time you're gonna go into a diet of any medicine plant, let's say, like ayahuasca, for example. Personally, myself, I haven't tried any, and but anyway, shamans, let's say, like us, have the capacity to receive the messages from plants, from nature by itself. They work a lot on their own isolation, so then they can get maybe certain repetitive singing through whistle, you know, certain words that are said that guide that soul who is attending that diet, let's say, or going through that journey to go into altered states of consciousness and receive messages. And the Icaros take you, for example, for protection, you know, to heal, to transform the environment. So it's endless, the possibilities of them. And they are very simple, because it's a simple whistle, a simple word, and so repetitive, but you get into a trance state. I think is this by itself. And personally, as I come from psychodrama as well, it is very easy to go into that altered state of consciousness if you are in a repetitive state with the sound and dance. That's why the Sufi dance as well. And it's amazing how some, I don't know, like healing transformation can shoot you, and you can recall that forever and ever. Probably sometimes shamans give you like an Icaro to you to work on for a certain while, and it's just amazing. So I've never received an Icaro for any shaman. So, but I would like to, I don't know, for the ones that have never ever, the ones that are just tuning in with us and never ever says like, what is an Icaro? Icaro, and you think of the Icaro, you know, of the Greek mythology, and it's not this, but it's something like, I don't know, I would just feel.
Could you spell that, Karen?
Yeah.
Could you spell Icaro?
Okay. Ah, yeah, sure. It could be with K or with C. Are you there?
K.
Yes. Icaro. It can be like this, or some people I've seen like with K even.
Icaro or Ikaro.
Yeah.
What I saw on YouTube, it was K, and there are some very nice melodies from ayahuasca shamans from jungles, and really they bring some difference. Your brain start to vibrate on different vibration, and your entire body calming down, and something opening. In addition to that, something new world opening for you. And that shaman, it's even with pictures on YouTube, he looks like a child, and he is old guy. He is small and looks like child, and he transmits that childlike vibration with the truth, universal truth. So it's very deep healing, really. I recorded, and I love to play it like repeatedly, just to be in that space. Yeah.
Yes, I'll share a couple as well.
What I would like to do, Karen, is, you know what? I mean, we don't necessarily need a shaman to create an Icaro. Yeah, we can create one ourselves. So why don't we do this little, you know, just explain or do it ourselves? You know, it's just really as you say, it could be a whistle, it could be a sound, it could even be a movement if you wanted to, because it's all part of the same thing. But as we're talking about sound, make it a form of sound. Choose a word. Think of mantra. Mantra and ikaro is pretty much, I think we can pretty much call this the same thing or similar, you know. And make it your own, especially now as we're going through that eclipse season, you know. Make it your own and say you want to connect to your soul. If you have any particular question, you want to know your destiny, you want to know, you know, whatever it is you want to work with in this particular, is it manifestation, is it healing, and just use 2-3 words. They will accompany you as you repeat them over and over again as you're going through your day over the next 2-3 months, as we're going through those eclipses now in 25th of March or whenever it is, and then the sun one coming up in April, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't, you know, when I went to Peru last year, it wasn't any particular guidance. It just said, you know, make something up that works for you. And that you can use, and if you're into protection, you can use it into protection. If you're into connecting with the plant, obviously, which was in my case while I was there, then you do that. So just to give you an example, what I did was, what is dear to my heart, what have I been working with, is I am that I am. So for me, I just made that into an ikaro, and I just changed it. I am that I am, 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 in my monotonous little key tone. That's what I have, right?
Like it's like attack.
Yeah. And that's what I've been using. And of course, I forgot about this now. But as we're talking about this again, why not use it? And you could call it anything. You could say, I like potatoes, I like potatoes, or anything like that.
Like potatoes.
But make it your thing, you know? Yes.
I have one. Go, Karen. Go ahead.
Just like you just reminded me that there is a little tip that I think this is very good in terms of how it's easily for us to get into that consciousness or altered states of connection through, let's say, Indian martyrs, Chinese, Asian, Peruvian, South American, Native Americans. Because if you check the Western, let's say, modern music, everything is like this. It finishes like this. It dies. The others stay. For example, letters. So you say ana, and it's and the other is, so it doesn't take you. So if you go into a repetitive, I am what I am, what I am, the also. So you have to look for that, not to die, because then it cuts. That's why the mantra repetition works out. And the music also, how immediately healing music, you know, some typical, you feel different. And if it's other type, no. Even though if you can be, you know, it can make you feel in a good mood, pop music or whatever, that is different, you know. So just wanted to clarify that.
I would also say for the ikaros, I would choose a stable vibration versus a chaotic one. So add a lot of vowels, you know, a, e, o, u. A little bit what Karen is saying, just to keep it open. Even I, o, you could use. You don't have to use my ketone, obviously. You use any. Whatever. You know? Go for your own thing. And, you know, if it makes you laugh, it's even better, right? It's supposed to make you laugh. Not really, but...
And also, yeah, and also the humming, I mean, you have the humming breath in the breath work, which is very, very calming, because immediately goes on to your parasympathetic nervous system, which it really brings you down. So when you're also doing a breath work cycle, you know, and any practice that you have done, and you just close it, or you close it with the or you close it with a and just going into this resonancy, and then it's when I always am amazed at how many times I have to actually do it, you know, so that I'm reminded every time how good it actually is for me to do it. And then you forget it again, and then you're like, oh yeah, but it's actually really good for me. But on the note of the Western music, haven't you noticed lately, and also in comparison to, you know, music from generations, from the past generations, that nowadays, not only about the, I'm not talking about the auto-tuning, but okay, how they only use their head voices currently, and no one is using their belly voices anymore, apart from opera singers, okay? It's okay. But how even every pop song is just like very high up here, and nothing is grounded anymore. This is what I noticed lately with the music somehow. So I found that very fascinating.
I like that. That is a very interesting observation. And you know what? It doesn't actually surprise me, because we you know, those chakras are not shutting down, but they're moving up. I mean, there are quite a few people who don't even have chakras anymore, or at least don't work with that separation anymore, you know? So we might do a little chakra tuning afterwards. And there are people, including myself, that they apparently don't have chakras anymore. And what does it mean? They just don't do the separation of the various energy centers. But what you're saying is actually, because remember we said that many times, the root goes into the crown, and the sacrum goes into the throat, and the solar plexus reaches up into the heart. So it's all coming up. And then like Steiner used to say 150 years ago, the consciousness then lifts out of the heart into the larynx. And then there we have the nervous system. There we have Arena mentioning the vagus nerve again, right? And then everything is going into the organs, because the vagus nerve is connected to all the organs, tuning the organs, because the organs of perception are connecting to the stars, to the planets. This is like, wow, I'm so excited, because this technology is like switching on.
One of my students just shared with me recently his research, and he was researching about breathing, and what he got from his research, that when we intake, we activate sympathetic nervous system. When we out breath, we activate parasympathetic nervous system. And what he shared with me, that stress making us to be more and more centered in that in breath, and we don't pay attention to out breath, it becomes shorter, and we don't receive enough relaxation and connection to that vagus nerve to unload our system. So it's no wonder with voice and healing connection. Voice, it's actually out breath, it's not so much in breath. In breath very short when you're singing. So when you're singing, you're almost using all the time out breath time. So you are relaxing, you are in healing mode, yes. And we all know how sympathetic and parasympathetic, how they connected to our reality, how they tuned us. Sympathetic, it's our events right now. It's a real-time thing. Parasympathetic, it's that deep connection to who we really are. And everything we need to look and let go maybe, or retune, or do all that thing. Another point, I'm going to this choir meeting, and we just recently did this exercise. We can do it in our group, when we can put out your tone, what you feel now through who you are, and then come together with some kind of harmony or disharmony, cacophony. It can be anything, but it's very interesting. We can kind of like create Ikara of this group.
Yes, we will. Well, let's do it.
But on the just on the exhale, it's because on the exhale and on the out breath, you're raising your level of nitric oxide, and that is actually one of the healing gases in a sense. So that's
this is what he said. Yes, exactly. This is what he said. How it works chemically. Yeah. Yep. I don't know, will we able to do that tuning, creating our group Karma, because we need to check, is it conveying all sounds at the same time, or it will cover and we won't be able to hear all sounds.
Let's just do an example, but it should. Let's just make it a tone, yeah? Everyone, go. Yeah, it's working. We did it. See?
Yeah.
It was
So,
like ripping the Band-Aid off. We just did it.
exactly. We can just tune in what you are today, what you are now, maybe how you tune in something and then create our karma. So it's very interesting experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And also so beautifully, if you can listen kindly like nature, because everything is super sacred, perfection in beauty, let's say, you know, not to judge, but how you can listen to any of the brothers and sisters, and then how you enter, and naturally, without cutting yourself, but without overlapping, because it's very nice also in the composition naturally. So thank you, Dina.
Well, I think that kind of makes me think of like the chakra toning, right? You know, as we're going through this, you know, blended chakra into one chakra, there's still, you know, so many, I think, unawakened people who have closed down chakras. And so there's a lot of healing that can happen there. But think about the tones for each of the chakra, and each of the chakras correspond with a note too. So there's the root chakra, which is Lam, the sacral, which is Vam, the solar plexus, which is Ram, heart, Yam, throat, Ham, third eye, Sham, and then the crown, Om.
We're gonna do this at the end. We're gonna do a nice little chakra balancing out with those lovely tones. Should we do that?
Yay.
Just a little story from Sedona. In old times in Sedona, when I just came in Sedona, we had pedicurist woman who would do pedicure and then tune with fork your toes. And it was just the best pedicure ever. I would come to her just to do that fork tuning. And it was low vibration. She had like low vibration. It was just, wow. That vibration will go through all your body. And you're like, yep, this is perfect completion of pedicure. Yeah.
Do we have any sound healers officially? I mean, we're all, yeah. What kind of?
I work with crystal bowls and tuning forks and bells and brass bowl, and of course my voice also.
Yeah. And Karen, I would assume you'll be singing.
Well, I studied with Tanit Navarro, and here we have another one, Navina Soler, who are based in Catalonia. And yeah, they simply also invite you to what I was saying, through healing through just your voice. It's just pure voice, how you can heal physically, emotionally, and with a lot of nonsense as well. Martina, you will like it, because we have a lot of moments of silliness in the manifestation of the voice. And it's incredible because we will play with different, more into the what is called sacredness, or, you know, like more centered and all that, and see how that plays in our bodies, you know, the same, you know, very interesting. And I just wanted from those practices, our names.
Yes.
We are called by, maybe my name is Karen, en español, Karen. So, which is different, Karen and Karen. So, my maybe family called me Karencita, you know, the Ita, my granny who passed away at 99, Kari, you know. So also by how we are named, that it is being created as sound, we also interpret something and how we say it. So there is a beautiful practice that, if we don't do it today, but I invite you to do it with your family or with yourselves, your name. And I remember this awakening of the emotion, Sandrine. I've seen many times that people just simply say their names and they have no expectations. And suddenly you have them in that emotional state because something awakens. And to listen to your name being sung. So you sing your name, and I can sing Martina's, and I can sing Jen's and Sandrine's, and we take turns singing, you know. And it's so beautiful, how, because sometimes you also resign to your name, let's say, and you name yourself differently. So it's very interesting how that song is being sung throughout your lifetime. That is simply your name.
Very interesting. And there's so many people who actually change their names because they actually don't like, and even with animals, you guys, Karen, you probably, or animal whisperers, know that sometimes animals are just not happy with their names and they act out until you change their names because it just doesn't work. The sound just doesn't work for them. I mentioned that also in my book, actually, the abbreviation of names, as you say, like in when I've got home in Austria, they call me Matti, or or Grubi, I've had so many particular names, nicknames, and for me, M is good enough. MG is perfect for me because the less you define it, the more space I have. And it's very interesting. If you have friends, think of friends or colleagues you work with some people, you have to say the proper first name. And some people you immediately go to just one letter or give them and it's impossible. Because if you abbreviate it and you give them a nickname, it wouldn't match, it wouldn't work. It's quite fascinating, profound how that sometimes works. How I know exactly when I can abbreviate and when you.
She did it with me immediately.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She didn't like my name at all.
No, it's not about that.
It's okay.
No,
I know.
And I know that Sandrine is hard it's too much. You need S is more than enough. Or Gigi. Gigi's best. That was it. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's very
but it's very funny that you mentioned that, because my mom, so my name is actually, it's a French name, so actually it should be also pronounced in a French way, which is Sandrine. Because my mom, when she heard that name sounding in the street, she was so fascinated by it that she called me Sandrine. And in Luxembourgish, because we have a lot of French also, so people call me also Sandrine, but because of the Luxembourgish language, it becomes actually Germanized, and then it becomes Sandrine. So like with a T and a Z and an O and an at the end, which is very funny. But she actually forbade everyone in the whole family to give me a nickname. My name is Sandrine. That's it. It's my name, Sandrine. No Sandy, no this, no that, Sandrine. So yeah. I was stuck with it.
At that Global Sound Healing Institute, where Sandrine posts the link to it. There's also, so David Gibson, who kind of started this institute, teaches classes on all different kinds of things with sound healing. He teaches like, digital production, how to, he has these different tools, and one of them is.
I was wondering if you knew him. So
yeah. He's actually, he used to be in the city. I used to go there frequently, but now he moved up to Marin, so it's a little harder to get to. But there's something that he uses called a brainwave assessment kit that helps you find your home note. Right. So Martina was talking about that go-to note where, where she goes to, and we all have that like primal note, and it's just some fascinating tools. So I did a session with him one time on finding like where the frequencies are missing, and like how, when you're working with sound frequency, just by the toning of your voice, they can, he has this tool that records the voice and then looks at the sound waves of it and finds where you're energetically deficient, like what frequencies you're deficient in. And then he'll tune a song. He has different healing CDs, but he can tune one of the songs to help bring that frequency back into your body. So it's just some really fascinating tools. I encourage everyone to explore soundhealingcenter.com, because there's really some fascinating work that, this group of people are doing in relation to sound and healing. And I'm on their mailing list. Sign up for their mailing list. And they have sales and have all kinds of tools, but it's just really, really fascinating how, he was talking about in his last email about how oftentimes modern music creates, by the sound patterns and the sound waves that some of these folks are using, it creates distorted patterns in the energy field as opposed to natural patterns in the energy field. So
it's exactly those sounds that I'm using for my healing currently, that I'm exploring in my healing session. So may I ask you, have you ever lied down on one of those mattresses with the sounds or not?
No. Well, yes, I have.
Oh,
I have.
Okay.
I don't have one, but he makes these massage tables with built-in speakers, and also has this thing he calls the dolphin, which
Yes, I saw that one.
it's like a giant
pillow,
pillow that you hold, and it has speakers in it, and so then you can tune it to whatever healing sounds you're listening to, and it vibrates throughout your whole body. It's just really fascinating stuff, and they're always looking for people to help sell their equipment. So if you need to make a little extra cash, contact him. But yeah, really, really fascinating work for sure, and talks about the science of sacred geometry and the way that it works with sound to give the human body the best capabilities for cell regeneration, etc.
And it works.
Yeah, I have a couple of his CDs that I play when I'm doing my healing work also.
And in addition to that, with a brainwave entrainment and getting to learn about alpha, beta, theta, delta states and all of that, that obviously is very much linked to the dream, to the awake and the sleep state. And that is very important to get a bit of a, understanding about. Is that about understanding, whatever, for multidimensional living, because those brainwave entrainments and those explain the multidimensionality, the various dimensions that we simultaneously vibrate at, right, during sleep and during awake time and in between all those. Now we've got Jennifer Stone. She is broadcasting from the airport today. So what have we got? Have you got something to say about sound? I know you do. Do you want to share something? We can't hear you.
Not yet.
I don't want to put you on the spot. If it doesn't work, don't worry about it. Yeah. No, it's not working. I just didn't want you to miss out on. Yeah.
You have to connect the audio.
Yeah, don't worry. As long as you can hear us and see. Tom, anyone else before we move on? Don't worry, Schnucky.
Well, I have some things I wanted to talk about, and the picture of the whales that I brought in. We're talking about the healing power of nature, the healing power of the sounds of nature. So the whales, this is actually a screenshot from my husband's YouTube channel. And when we were in Maui last, he used the drone to fly over a pod of whales. And so you see the mama whale and the baby whale, which, they just have such wonderful, beautiful energy. But I was reading a little bit about the whales and the way that they navigate. And they navigate with sonar and sound along the sound lines, along the ley lines. And when you talk about energy lines on Earth, the Australian, the Aboriginals have always called the ley lines the song lines. And because there's so much noise, in our culture, so many electronics and blah, blah, you know, everything is noisy, that we have a hard time hearing the song lines. But we have the ability to feel the energy and hear the sound if we listen very deeply to that. You know, so I was thinking, you know, swimming with these majestic beings, you don't even need to go out far in the ocean where they are, and they're really not that far out. You know, maybe they're 100 yards offshore in some places, but you can dive in and put your head under the water, and you can hear, because the water will resonate the sound. You can hear the whale song and you can hear dolphin songs also for miles and miles and miles. So if you go out on, you know, one of these whale watching trips, one of the things they do is they drop a microphone down underwater and then broadcast it on the boat on a speaker. And you can hear whales from hundreds of yards away, the way that that sound resonates. And when you're in the water, you can feel it in your body, can feel the healing. One of the things that one of the guides was saying is that it's the male whales that actually sing, that the females try stay under the radar, that it's only the males that sing. So, you know, this divine masculine rebalancing, I think, is partially being led by the whale beings.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. I tried to use technology to help today, but it wasn't helpful. To what you were saying, Tanya, first off, how special it is that to have a picture like what you have as your background that you took yourself. It's a very powerful image anyway, but to have experienced that yourself is even more so. When I was in Mexico a few weeks ago, on a couple of the day trips, we went to swim in cenotes, which are kind of like caves. It's a network of cave systems, and the energy in them is really, really special. There was one that was a little bit more open, and it was more like a channel that you could swim in. And so I just kind of laid back and I did the backstroke, and it was maybe a third of a mile swim through the channel. And the energy of it and the way that you could connect to Earth Mother, and I could feel all the fish. And of course, people were having a good time, and you could hear like the kids play, but like having your ears underwater, feeling that reverberation and being able to hear more of the energy behind it instead of hearing what they were actually saying, I felt connected in a way that you don't usually get to when you're not underwater. And so the way that sound reverberates is very, very special, just like what you were saying.
There's a guy who invented these things. They're like little alligator clips, metal alligator clips, and attached to, I mean, they probably work like piezoelectric energy where they're feeling the vibrations, but he's developed these little clips that you can attach to a speaker, and you can clip them onto natural flora, right? So he's showed clipping them onto mycelium, the mushrooms, the fungi, clipping them onto like a cedar tree or a redwood tree, and it sounds like chimes. You know, it's like that it's like they're singing, right, from this new technology. I mean, it's probably not new technology. It's yeah. So there's all these YouTube videos now, like making music out of mushrooms. Have you heard mushroom music? I saw someone posted a reel where he clipped into a cedar tree on Instagram, and it sounds like bells and chimes. It's just the most amazing thing. And you know, maybe we can't physically hear it without this technological help, but we energetically feel it because it resonates. Think about Shinjuku, right? The forest bathing, when you're sitting in the forest and just quiet and listening, how refreshing that is. And you're getting the negative ions from the trees, but you're also hearing the sound or feeling the sound of the forest.
Yeah, also like the planetary sounds. And what was very funny is when people were talking about the Mercury going retrograde, when everybody is going like, whoa. When you listen actually to the sound of Mercury, his normal sound, and then you listen to it when it goes into retrograde, it's like, you know, like you go over a chalk, you know, a chalkboard with your nails, you know, it's like, whoa, okay.
Maybe it's like putting on the brakes.
You know, that makes me think now, you know, from a practical perspective, how we could practice that. You know, there's an exercise. It's not an exercise. It's just something my mum and I do often when we just say a number and we have a color associated to the number. My dad thinks we're totally crazy, and for my mum and me, it's perfectly normal. Not that we have the same association. We have different ones, but there is no way that a color doesn't have, or a number doesn't have a color. We could add the sound to that as well. And you could just, or whatever you, any color that you perceive or see, you could sound it out, you know, or like you said, Tanya, with the flowers, the plants, or anything really, just ask what kind of sound do you have, right? And then start sounding and speaking through sound. I mean, look, light language, we've done lots of stuff about light language, you know, but this is almost easier than light language, just any sounds, because when we call it a language, then we still feel like, oh, it has to have words.
We need to understand it.
That. I had a dream actually 2 days ago, and there was a party. It was in my place wherever I was at the time, and I walked out, and when I came back, it was very quiet. And I thought, what's wrong with you people? It's so boring. Nobody was eating, nobody was drinking, nobody was talking, you know. And then there was this one guy standing right next to the wall with his ear, and I'm like, is he like? And I walked up to him and said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, I'm listening to the music in the wall. I'm listening to the music off the wall. And I'm like, you are off the wall, aren't you? But you know, it doesn't, I can't let that go. I think I had a dream three days ago. It's like listening to the music off the walls. It was definitely an invitation. And today we're talking about sound. And I think listening it's not just us making the sound, but it's actually listening, like Karen said, listening to nature, listening to everything, but listen to the walls as well.
Well, I was thinking over the weekend, I mean, we talk about separation of densities as it relates to people, and when you're in a certain vibration, other people don't resonate around that. But I think that we travel through that with sound too, because like as you progress, you start to hear like the high-pitched tones. Well, then they start to get more clarity, and you could start to hear transmissions and the records, and you channel it. It depends on what bandwidth you're holding yourself in and what kind of sounds you can pick up on. So like I've heard the sounds in space, and I've heard the sounds of the trees too, but it's like when I can hold my vibration and what matches that. So like I've been sort of perceiving about how you travel through those bandwidths, and where you're holding yourself, you can pick up on more of the sounds that are in that same vibration. To match yourself to the vibration of what's in the walls, and you'll be able to hear what he was listening to.
Yeah.
In my house, that's very easy because all those guys, I have one who's making house and techno music, so you actually hear a lot what he's doing. And they also have to speak quite loudly because, you know, they don't hear anymore. No, but just and there is also something that I have come to sleep with wax earplugs for various reasons. But sometimes when I tell people that I'm sleeping with earplugs, they're like, I cannot do that because then I'm listening to my own heartbeat. And I'm like, I don't even hear my heartbeat anymore because I'm so attuned to probably attuned to myself already, that it's like just soothing, you know? So I'm like, okay, no, but for me, that was never the issue. It was more like, you know, not getting woken up through sounds around me, because I used to live in a very noisy neighborhood, and I just continue using them, and it's very, very soothing for me. So I find it very interesting when people say that, oh, and then you hear your own heartbeat. I'm like, maybe you should listen to it. So we'll calm you.
Good idea. I think I must try that. Put some earplugs in and see how you feel listening to your own heartbeat. And if you do feel put off by it, well, then there's definitely something you need to address, right?
Well, and as you listen to your heartbeat, begin to hear also the heartbeat of Mother Earth and the way that it syncs with your heartbeat.
Thank you, Tanya, for that, because that's why we have these immersion activities in which just go underwater, or even if it's in a tub or something like that. And immediately, most human beings connect to themselves being in my mommy's wombs, no? And that is also the womb of Gaia, let's say. And going back to the whales or dolphins, I bought in the New Age time. I was 16, I don't know. And I just played, you know, and I started to study or to try to clean the room, I remember. And I just stopped because I was crying. You know, those moments that you're like, probably also something. And I remember like it is something in there singing that I didn't know was male. That is, it takes you somewhere else, no? And going back to the walls, maybe I take it with your permission, because going back to arts, if I go, it's like the man that speaks or listens to the walls, you know, so good. But can you hear the noise? There's a bit of noise around. No, you cannot. Oh, awesome. So going back to noise as well, there is an exercise that is called against the wall. So in the morning, you know that we are a bit rusty, you know, and until our voice adjusts, I mean, whomever we're talking first, it sounds differently until we get in tune. So you can do a lot of cleansing with your voice, and also get a lot of messages that you can just write down your own transformation, whatever path, and just simply see plain wall. If you have it any color, plain without decoration, better. So you can just simply face the wall and you start to cleanse yourself with your tongue out. You know, you can start with your breath like this. That is for a bit of cleansing. But before I get into that, you can start releasing sounds, no? So from an A, as Martina was saying, from the vowels, for example, and to getting into your own melodies. And so how do you sound today? You know, what is your sound today? And from there you can compound, but not for the beauty, and not to look for something or a composition coming from the brain. Just let it go, you know, let it release and see how it goes and takes you. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 3 minutes, as much as you feel comfortable. And it's very beautiful, because if you do it like in a discipline training for 21 days or whatever, you can find a lot of information through your day, you know, that you can anchor. And it's so beautiful. And sometimes maybe you don't even feel like saying anything, like letting any sound maybe come out. And it's very interesting. And there is another one, the one about was doing cleansing. I think it's Asian, this one. I don't know where one of my teachers picked it up, but they say like through the sounds that we can make with our tongues coming from the breath to the sound itself is the memory of all our ancestors and in humankind. So it is registered our own baby cries, and also when maybe people transcend, or when mamas, or when you are seeing somebody transcend and you have that pain, and you're like, really, for real? Because we have it registered, you know? So I just go very fast, because like when you do this, like, I cannot go farther because of my dog. But anyway, you can continue, and you can go higher and higher, and not from the brain, not from the mind, incredible, because there was a study and a registration of the memories of the mothers that lost their young children at wars, you know? And you're like, what? It may even have that? So there is a moment in which you also can get into that point. You have to go there and also come back, because you cannot let it just up to there and immediately come back. It doesn't matter the saliva you release, but it's a very good exercise that actually you are ready to sing opera, let me tell you, because it's also for cleansing. Your throat is very clear. Oh, you can start singing, but also the messages. And I learned it when I was 16. so young still, to get all that maybe you will get into much drama when you are older, you know. So now, like 30 years later, I just happened to show it to a sister just because, and I was like, oh my God, no, like, and I was getting or touching base when I was younger. But yes, it's very interesting. And the way we also breathe and make sounds when we are babies, that we put the bellies, you know, like when in breath work that you swallow the belly, because we're speaking more from here and not from the belly, you know. That's why singers do it from the belly. So maybe we should also tend to do it when we are singing, when we are healing our voice, from the belly sound, no? There is a reason why we come naturally to breathe like that, no? Not like from the throat. And yeah, so that's very, very interesting. Suddenly I felt like I could even go into that moment of the awakening of the sound. But yeah, healing as well, for sure, even in that point.
From a healing perspective, because what you're just explaining, actually, it's beautiful, because it's the connection of the heart, the tongue, the throat, and the sound that gets created through that connection, that consciousness that gets created through that structure, through that connection. And all of that is connected to the soul. This is the gateway to the soul, and the soul is obviously an accumulation of all the past reincarnations that we've had. It's all about the karma as well that we're bringing in. So our voice changes throughout our lifetime as we are resolving karma because of that connection. Absolutely. And you know, I don't know, but what came to mind, I can't remember now who said it, but it's like when there are no words, sometimes nothing comes out. And I've recognized that many years ago, when with some people, you know me, I can talk forever, and with some people there's just nothing coming out of my mouth, and it was almost like I remembered, because I made myself wrong for it. I thought, oh, I can't speak English. All of a sudden, I can't speak English anymore. I didn't have the words. I couldn't express it. And it was because there was just no frequency, no signature frequency match. And it was almost like the body said, shut up. It's not happening. It was a disconnect. And just become aware of that, because we meet people sometimes, you know, there's just nothing to say. And then you make yourself wrong for the wrong reasons. And it's got nothing to do with that. It's just not necessary to communicate with these people. But they're still in your life for a reason. I think that leads us back to observation. Observation, I think, is not just looking through the eyes. Observation is the sound that you're hearing, the listening, and the expression of it. And that's, you know, we were talking about how can we manifest, and I think Sai Baba was the guy who just manifested just like that, right? Now, how can we do this? Through sound. We were talking about the keynote, our own keynote. One of those exercises I've been looking at, and obviously haven't really managed yet, but it's like, find the keynote of the desire. What is it that you want to create? Find that keynote from a sound perspective. And if sound is too wacky for you, then think of the color, or add the number, add the geometry, and go through all of that. And then just hold it and harmonize with it. So the spark, the frequency is the spark of the desire. Then add the vibration, just expand it out. Vibration is the length of that frequency. And then harmonize it with your own key note and hold it. And frankly, sound it out. Sound it out. And then maybe one day, and if it does happen, please by all means give me a call. It will happen right there. You manifest it in front of your eyes, because it's the intention without the attachment to the outcome, obviously, but adding the sound, harmonizing the frequency, the vibration, the harmony. And this is what the signature frequency of us is, of our technology. It is all those three things and more, of course, you know.
I would like to share, I already do that stuff, but with some, not some material.
Show us, prove it.
Yeah. Not with some material stuff, but with environment, with vibration. If I wake up and something is not working, I start to sing, I start to create the music, vibration, and you know, harmonization is happening. It's so funny, but it is working. It is working, and it's so simple, actually. What kind of environment you want to have around you, what you feel inside, your deepest connection to heart, to earth, to universe, and you put it out in your sound, and environment changes. It works, yeah, it works. Before I go, I have to go, I have a class, so that's why I'm leaving earlier. When we shift to our summertime, it won't be a problem, but now I have to go earlier. I want to share a very funny story experience from my past. I got hurt emotionally, very deep, and I knew I had to cry, and I couldn't. I just couldn't cry. I rushed home, and I found music that was translated. It was violin music. It's some concerto. I don't remember, Mozart, maybe someone else. But it was violin music that would play this closest sounds of two notes, interval, closest sounds. It's like, you know, like on a bridge, on something. And I found in that concerto just a little piece, maybe less than a minute, and I was playing again and again that thing. I start to cry, and you know, this is how I unwind myself. I didn't stuck in that emotion. I didn't stuck in that drama. So it was very funny, but it helped me a lot. So thank you, guys. Wonderful talk. See you next time.
Bye, Irina.
Thanks for that.
I'm picking up on that because as a child, so my mom is singing all the time, and in our house the radio is on all the time. So you know, we are like automatic. So whatever the radio plays, we just sing along. You know, if we know the song or not, it doesn't matter. We just sing along and whatever. So and at one stage she was also trying to teach me Luxembourgish songs, and there is one that is it's a sad song. But it's a very beautiful song. And each time she started to sing that one to me, I was like crying. And I'm like, stop. And even nowadays, if it's a sad song, and it's not very popular, so you don't really hear it. But the other day when I was in Luxembourg, I suddenly heard it, and I was like, and I had to, you know, goosebumps. Like, okay, I had to just breathe and go through it, you know. And I'm like, okay. But I could not, it's like when you start singing and sometimes the dogs start howling with you, like sometimes they like it and sometimes they don't. It's like, you're like, okay, shall I stop? It's not okay. Yeah, but I get what Irina was going to, you know, this probably also in that sound when I had this emotional release, you know, there was probably one note that was just like, okay, that's the one, and we just let it out. I didn't cry, but it was just like a really nice emotional release happening. So it was really interesting and beautiful.
Yes, and to add that as children ourselves, we are always constantly singing, crying, like the voice is our main tool all the time in communication, even if you're shy, you know what I mean? So we're using until we start to say no, the no's that come from society or in a school. No, don't speak, don't say this, no, 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 and then you shut. And then we have already talked about what is cultural accepted or not, and then restrictions and how you can travel and a lot of chatty souls and singing and other environments that better not to say anything even on the train, you know what I mean? Because it's no, what are you saying? Or how you express. My partner who's French, for example, I'm Latina. So I say that, yes, he has his own space, good. But when I see my family or whenever, you know, like immediately I raise my voice, you know, my tone. And he's like, oh, and he's very sensitive. He's a bit of how do you say, Avenger, not what I'm talking about, the superheroes. I know it in Espanol, what Elon Musk has.
Yeah.
Asperger?
Yes.
On the spectrum, on the autistic spectrum.
Yeah. So his ears and everything and all himself. And so let's say, cultures like Greek or Italian or, it's like, for him, it's like a lot. It's too much information, too many codes, So very, very interesting. And going back into the voices, ladies, how they sing culturally, when they do that, that code, and then so many Indians, how they sing, and it's just amazing. I just love all the folk songs. I hope I transcend and I learn them all. The more weird language and sounds, the best. And let's sing it all. Let's sing it in one single song, all the languages possible in existence, and just transmit the same. It would be just amazing. But the capacity of the ladies, even I suppose for the men, but how they can do this anchoring, and you get into a spiral of their own music, is just so, so beautiful. And also I end up crying, mostly all the time. Doesn't matter if it's Russian, Serbian, Hungarian, like something is there of the togetherness that, I don't know, when I was young, I used to sing, well, we are the world, we are the children, and now they're doing a documentary based on that, how they see me, but I was just crying, like, may be it okay or not, but you know what I mean, in this wholeness. Yeah, so just wanted to say that too.
And picking up on the music, the other day I follow one on the YouTube channel who is just bringing up some jazz or funk or blues albums from the past, and then or some that are not very well known. And I noticed that, especially those albums that came around when I was born in 75, and all that music around that era is very, it's resonate, and it speaks to me. Like I do not even know when I put the music on, I'm like, that's from, and then I look up 72, I'm like, there is something in there that is just speaking to me internally. And no matter if it is blues, jazz, funk, or funk, early funk then, it's just fascinating, and which is why I fell absolutely in love with the Doors, because I heard them also back when I was actually still a little child, but because my cousin was older than me and he was listening to them. And then when they had the revival in the 90s about the Doors, I was just running around and singing the songs, and people were like, how do you know that? It just came out. And I'm like, no way, I know that. I know it's music that I have been growing up with. How can that be? And then I went back and I asked my cousin, and he's like, yeah, it's the Doors, So yeah, you always liked it. You were always running around and doing like your whatever, when I was playing the music. And I'm like, okay, good, thank you.
There's that song by the Doors, Break On Through. Break on through to the other side. Whenever I feel stuck, I need to break on through something, I put that song on and dance my pants off, and then whatever the block or the wall there is just shattered.
Yeah. And the beginning of Riders on the Storm.
Yeah, it's powerful music, and that was going on also when you were in utero, right? That was going on before before your spirit was incarnating to earth. So part of that called you here.
Probably.
I was listening to a disco mix earlier, a Studio 54 disco mix, and it was a really good one. I love disco because it really gets me up and going and moving. And so I put that on this morning, and you know, just like really, really fun, really good. And so I was all like, I didn't even drink coffee today. I was all like, oh, I'm energized. Right. So the way music can energize you like that.
Even Rasputin.
Rara Rasputin of the Russian Queen. Yeah.
I was there was some awards show on the other night. It was only the second, can't remember what it's called, the Grid Awards or the Grip Award, the Grio, Grio. And they were talking about Mariah Carey and how she has a 5-octave range. And I'm like, oh, okay, I have a piano. I'm gonna go look and see what that looks like. So, you know, I've been singing since I'm a kid, and you know, use my voice. I've been singing more recently because we're doing karaoke a lot with our friends, our neighbors. And so I'm like, oh, what is my range? Like, where can I go? Like, you know, so I was playing on the piano and looking at what that looks like. But it made me think of an exercise that that we used to do in choir to help warm up your voice. When you start like as low as you can, like what is your lowest note? Oh, like how high can you go? Right. And this is when your body is resonating, when you're using your vocal cords this way, one of the things I've noticed is that whatever tonality or whatever octave you're singing in, it's resonating in a different part of your larynx, right? So as you're going from that low, 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 low up to the high, 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 you know, you don't have to be good, right? But it just like when you practice that you know, high to low or low to high, you're working with the belly for the breath control, but you're also resonating in different places through your throat. And then the high highs resonate all the way up right into that like sinus chamber and the third eye chamber. So I think that's just a really fun way to, you know, help your body resonate, you know, in a way that you don't normally do. And then like see how you feel afterwards, right? It's almost like a cathartic, energetic release when you're singing like that, when you're using your tonality like that.
Absolutely. Using music much more mindful and adding your own. And then not necessarily get hung up on the sound itself. I know we're talking about sound, but you know, I had my another massage session today, and she doesn't talk throughout the massage, but there is music going on. There is, it's almost like there's a switching on of my technology so that I can do the healing. You know, it's like we all know the healer is the facilitator, and this lady is particularly good in facilitating because she doesn't take up space. She just does the movements, but because of her quirkiness, she allows me so much space that I can really visualize my healing the way I want it, you know, and not that I control it. It's just like today was amazing. It's like I had my wings restored today, beautiful purple wings, and I threw in some symbols. You know, I didn't throw in the sound because sound is, I don't go to sound, to be honest. I have to really practice that. I'm not even one that really does a lot of music and stuff. It's not my go-to, but I threw up in some symbols, and chamomile flower came up for some reason that started growing out of my wings where it needed the healing, you know. Just like the violin. No, but yeah. So anyway, so it's not just sound is who we are, is everything, you know. I don't know why this was relevant, but obviously it was. So singing bowls, what kind of sounds? Drums, singing bowls, music, what do you call those? Bring them together. Music bells.
Symbols.
Anything, rattles, anything. Just start using it and play with it.
And going back to what Tanya was talking about, going like with the range of your voice. I've been playing with different accents lately because it takes me like out of like my normal resonance, and it makes me play with it, work with my voice to do something different. So just playing with accents too, I think, can bring a new energy into your practice.
Very good idea.
Yeah.
And speaking different languages, you find yourself talking. When I speak English compared to German, is completely different. Completely different. I'm almost a different person when I do it.
It just, yeah, this is the same. I'm not a different person, but I noticed how, yeah, I use different languages to express different things, no? Especially when I'm in front of another person that also knows all these languages. So when we are, sometimes when we are 5 or 4 people together and we know all our backgrounds, we start using words that actually express better in that certain language what we want to say than in our own. So it's like crazy, but that's about you know, that's where you go with when the symbolism goes into the word as well, you know, when you have to explain things. And I have the thing that because I'm such a radio pickup sound person, that when I'm in the same room with a few people that speak different accent, like in English, for example, if I'm in a room with a London Cockney and a Scot, I will at one stage, you know, either go out with speaking Scottish with a Scottish accent or with a London Cockney accent. So, and my friend when I was in Germany, she was always telling me, you have been with the ones that are singing all the time, you know, because you're intonating differently. And I'm like, yeah, I've been visiting, you know, this one and this one. Or when I come back from Luxembourg, she was like, speak more lower, because you've been at home again. And here Karen probably can also, when I'm home with my aunts and my mom, it's like, it's loud, very loud. So that's why you need to speak louder to make yourself, you know, heard. And so when I came back to Germany, she was like, you can speak, you know, lower again. It's good. I'm still, you know, I'm like, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about there. My sister lives in Wisconsin, and that's where I grew up. And in the Midwest, Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakota, there were a lot of Scandinavian immigrants that settled there. And so the language has developed from that accent. So you see like the series Fargo. Bye, Jen. See the series Fargo, and oh my gosh, yeah, they're going to go out there on the lake and go ice fishing, because it's cold. You got to drill a hole in the lake, and in the summer you go out on the boat, right?
On the boat.
So yeah. my friends always laugh when I go back and visit my sister and hang out with my Wisconsin friends, because they come back talking like a Wisconsinite, a Minnesotan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny when you meet people, you know, especially in like here in London, where so many different nationalities, you know, when I say, oh, are you from? You are from South Africa. When I got back from South Africa, my accent was so strong. Everybody thought I was a South African, you know, or, you know, it's like I always called myself a chameleon, but just picking up, harmonizing with. But then again, you know, I mean, that's actually a capacity when you can do that, because it's not about standing out all the time. Sometimes the capacity is to actually harmonize, and lots of us are signature frequencies that have come here to harmonize, to bring harmony to this planet. And I think this is just an expression of it. And if we can do this with our language, that's just showing us what are we actually doing with our signature that we haven't acknowledged yet. Right? Or we just walk into a room and people start understanding each other just because you're in the room and you have no idea what you're actually doing, because your frequency just balances out that kind of medium, I don't like mediumship, but that kind of signature.
I have noticed of lately that some, although especially in the corporate settings, that I noticed that a couple of years now, that when I'm proposing things that maybe, you know, they would never have agreed to, suddenly they are like, yeah. So, and I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And I just tried it the other day again in a meeting where, you know, I had 4 people against, you know, they were nearly fighting with each other on some stupid thing. And I was like, but why don't we just use, you know, a little bit of that language and say that we will continue researching on it? And it took like, I'm not praising myself for it, but it's like, and then they were like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I'm like, okay, again, you know, so like, and I'm more and more aware of this, you know, the harmonizing role in that I'm also now translating more and more into my work, and how much easier it has become, because I've finally acknowledged it, that I have that capacity and that I can move with that energy forward in a good way.
That was the first thing I said to you when I met you in Turkey, that you're a harmonizer.
Yes. And I was like,
what, she thought she was a shit. But the harmonizer was screaming out to me anyway.
Well, and I think that's part of, you know, my journey as a healer or healing activator, is the ability to meet people where they are, right? That doesn't mean I need to change my frequency, but I can hold, you know, that secondary container where I can energetically meet people where they are, right? And I think when we can do that, you know, this is part of the journey of being a celestial medium of peace.
And it all starts from the congruency within, being congruent with who you are. And then it just becomes all natural, you know? Beautiful.
Also, how in the interaction of whatever it is that we require, demand, ask, invite, anything, also we can anchor that peace, you know? And I think in some of the earlier Zooms I've recorded, I listened to you, Tanya, and like how you are transmitting that when you walk, and, you know, like in the smile, and, you know, like even if it's just from non-spoken word, just the body language, because body language is another language, well, it's a language by itself. Because also if we can transmit, reflects on your face, on your whole, right? But yes, through the kindness we can receive, we can manifest indeed this magic that you just made me dream immediately, Martina, like, woo, if we can just like boom, manifest something. But yes, we can manifest a free coffee, we can manifest any gift, any discount. I don't know if it is not regarding about money, but a beautiful day, not to rain, whatever, you know, through how we use it. And yes, going back to Native Americans, how indeed in the connection of the elements, no, the songs for the rain, and etc., no, and abundance, the chantings for the abundance, and all that, no. So yes, how we refer to each other. And yeah, and animals are very good for that, no, how animals can also read, as you were saying, Tanya, something in the person, you know, that they can feel if it's trust, not trust, danger, of course their own thought of whatever they might have gone through as well, but basically they feel that very fast as well, not from others. Yeah.
Another add-on to the manifestation thing, physical or not, physical is always good to play with just for fun, you know, but acknowledging all the other ones, like Irina said earlier on, of course we need to do that. And then let's not forget the timing is an illusion. So it's not necessarily that it lands right away in your hand or wherever you want it to be. but it might actually happen in a couple of days' time. I've had this weirdest thing happen to me once. I went to a market, and there was this necklace which I thought, oh, this is really nice, right? And then I thought, no, I'm not going to take it, and I just left it. And as I walked out on my way to the car, it was lying on the floor right there. And I'm kidding me. Yeah. It was literally lying in the grass, and I thought, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very
Followed
much.
you home. It's trying to follow you home.
But really, and stuff like that has happened to us before. We're thinking about it. We sort of just align with it and everything, and then a week later, something happens. And also, we need to think in energy. We can't go into, it has to look like this, but it's the energy that we are creating, and it might look different to what we have considered a possibility, but actually it matches the energy that we have wished for or desired. So expand it out and don't get hung up on the material, the way it looks like, the shape, the form, and everything.
Well, and then it's also our responsibility to pay attention to that and to receive it, right? Because we can manifest and manifest and manifest, but if we're not paying attention to what's going on around us, if you didn't see that necklace on the ground, then what was the point of the manifestation in the first place?
Absolutely. And of course, then the old stuff comes in, like, not in this case, I was perfectly fine, but my daughter was saying the other day she found something and there was nobody there, so she couldn't give it to anyway. And then she started having guilt issues. Oh, Mama, what should I have done? Should I have done this? I said, Emma, there was nobody there, so you took it. Thank you, universe, right? I mean, just receive it. Of course, if there are people there, you go around and ask. But if there was nobody there and you couldn't have done anything else, well, you take it with gratitude. Thank you very much, right? That kind of thing. But yeah, the guilt trip that leads us back into domination and control. And it's, I think, Karen, you mentioned it at school, where we're having to be quiet and we can't have our voices heard and we need to sit still. Movement is being restricted. Expression, freedom of expression. Say what you want. I mean, we're starting with our children when they're small. Don't speak so loud, and don't say this and don't say that. And if you're a boy, you're allowed to say this. If you're a girl, you're not. That kind of shit, Yeah. And that's all this part of domination and control, how we have been molded into something that we're not. And that's how we're singing and humming and toning ourselves out of.
Breaking all the molds.
Because we're coming to an end. How are we doing? Shall we do a chakra activation humming stuff?
Sure.
Yeah. Do you want to do it, Tanya? Shall I do it?
I can if you like, or if you have something that you were thinking of, go for it.
I would just do what I would normally do. But
Great.
What we're gonna do is when Tanya sounds out the lam, vam, ram, and all that, we're all gonna chime in. Okay, so we're gonna just keep it simple, and when we do the lam, we all say it. So, and bring it together. Okay.
Okay. So just start by a nice deep breath into your root chakra, into your perineum.
Do you want me to do one of these?
Sure.
I've got one. Let's see if we can hear it.
Yeah. So breathe, nice deep breath into your root chakra. And then tone out the word. So we'll do the breath and then the tone. So breathe. And lam. Now breathe into your sacral chakra, your low belly. And vam. Vam. Solar plexus is Ram. Heart chakra is Yam. Throat chakra, Ham. Third eye, your intuitive nature, your tiny little pineal gland, your little pine cone, Sham. And the crown chakra is Om. Om. So you breathe into your chakras. Think about your soul star chakra now a foot above your head. And that energy is silent. Just take a minute to listen. And as you listen to the world around you, you might receive messages from your guidance, from Earth Mother, from your pets, from your partner, from any of the sentient beings around you, like crystals or feathers that you've collected, things that you've brought from Earth. Take another nice deep breath now into your Earth Star chakra, a foot below your feet. And go back to the deep, deep tone resonant with Mother Earth in Om. Om.
Om.
Om. Now wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes and shake it out. And that's
Lovely.
something that you can practice on your own for fun, for activation. You know, as you breathe through each of those energy centers in your body, you're connecting to the resonant frequency also of the adrenal glands, you know, of your glandular system and also your nervous system.
And remember,
May I say something?
yes, by all
I
means.
haven't said anything through the whole process, but when you were doing the star chakra is above your head, correct?
Mhm.
You went into the silence. I got the frequency of nutmeg for some reason, like I could smell it and taste it. I don't know if that means anything, but I found that was interesting that came true very so clearly.
Before my dog was named Kiki, they named her at the pound Nutmeg.
Well, maybe the frequency of nutmeg wanted to come by and say hi.
Wonderful. Yeah, you know, so when we pay attention, right, the messages come through.
Yeah, I could
just part
actually
of
like
listening.
smell it and like I could taste it in my mouth. It was so strong. Interesting.
That's instant manifestation. Can you make bread with it? Nutmeg? Do we put nutmeg in bread?
Yes, you can.
Some bread, Lana.
Well, I know that that in sweet potato pie they put nutmeg in that. It's really good.
And also simple potato mash, a little bit of nutmeg, always.
Mhm.
And cream spinach.
And ice cream.
Okay, guys, now I'm hungry. That's it.
And ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves, and you have pumpkin spice.
And cardamom.
Yes. There we go.
Maybe we need to talk about taste next time.
I
Next.
think so. I think
Uh-huh.
so.
Tom, would you like to share anything? So good to have you here.
Yes. it's
I
really nice.
use sound to break up stuck energy so I can feel it better and transform it.
I didn't hear that. What was that?
I use sound to get a
Break-
better feeling for. Can you hear me? To get a better feeling for stuck energy, so I can transform that energy.
Yeah, and that's a very good point you're making towards the end here now, because we can use sound. It doesn't have to be even a coherent vibration. We can use that or something, you know, just to break it apart, right? Would you say that, Tom?
I quite like overtoning. I quite like that. And you can work deeper and deeper into the more subtle levels of your being. That one.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
Well, there was something
Wonderful.
that I wanted to share, which is really more like not sound but frequency. So it's silent, but I didn't want to bring it in the middle of you guys talking about sound, because it's based more on vibration. And one of the things that I found over the years, and I caught myself doing, and I realized like later on why I would do that. When I was a little, I used to see my aunt, when she would be lying down, she'd be shaking her feet, you know, like her toes and just her feet. And I always paid attention, like, why is she doing that? What is she doing that for? Because I never saw anybody else do that. But as I got older, I realized that I was doing the same thing. And I caught myself and I asked myself, why am I doing the same thing that my aunt would do, you know, to herself? And I realized that when I would shake my leg, you know, it would actually ground me back. And it would cause my whole body to readjust to more of my natural state of being, my frequency. And so whenever I do it, I don't do it often, but if I do it, I pay attention. It's like, oh, I'm shaking my leg. I must be grounding myself back into a more natural frequency, a more natural vibration. And I thought that's something interesting to share here with sound healing. Because if you're in a place where you can't really listen to sound, or you're not hearing any sound, or you can't express sound through your mouth or anything like that, that's another way to do it silently, is to shake your legs.
It's like the animals, shake it off, shake it off, shake it off.
Yeah.
That's what we do with dancing as well and everything, isn't it? Shake it off.
So it's a vibration, and the vibration is like the patterns that Sandrine has behind her, you know. The sound created the patterns, and the vibration is what put it all together. So it's the same thing, you know, I'm doing with my own body. And I'm sure other people does it too, just, you know, they don't realize it.
Mm.
And just a note about the patterns that Sandrine has behind her. There's an app also called Simoscope that you can download on, well, I have an iPhone, but when you open it up and you can record, it will give you that type of pattern from your vocal intonations.
You can find it on the, I posted on the link to it, It's from John Stuart Reid's website. I actually saw that his whole family is actually his son is involved, his wife is involved. Everyone in that family has to deal with sound.
Yeah.
What is it called? What is it?
Cyma scope.
CYMA. If you scroll up through the chat,
We will put it in the links.
yeah.
Now.
Sandrine posted it in the chat earlier. CYMA scopes, SCOPE.com.
On the recording, all right. If I got it all there, whatever I just copied over to the recording.
Yeah.
So I hope we reminded ourselves of all those tools and practices and mindfulnesses with regards to sound, so that we can use them, especially the next couple of weeks, as we're going through the eclipse season, so that we can harness those heightened energies, right? And not just let them go through without really creating or integrating. We do naturally anyway, but it's actually quite fun to do it with a bit more awareness, right?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
We all had a lot to say today.
Yes, good. Absolutely. Well, we'll see you next week then. Cheers, guys. Thanks for coming.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Tom. Bye.